So chapter idea exchanges, as you all know, are very dependent on people being willing and open to share ideas or challenges that their chapters are facing. And I know for me, I started going to chapter idea exchanges my D2 year, and our chapter was kind of struggling. So it was a really great opportunity to learn from other chapters who were doing a lot of great events. So feel free to chime in. Nothing's too small. You don't know how it could impact another chapter, how they could use your idea and make it even better. So while this is going to be slightly different today since it's virtual, I really encourage you all to speak up and to add stuff when you feel necessary. Okay, so now we will move on to our objectives for today. And so today we're going to be focusing first on creating sessions that foster engagement, and then moving on to strategizing how to promote these virtual events, and then discussing ways to incentivize participation, and finally using this as an opportunity to collect feedback to potentially do virtual things even beyond this COVID crisis right now. All right, so does anyone have any questions so far? All excited? Okay, we will move on to our first topic then. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about developing content to foster engagement. And my first question for everyone are, what type of sessions have you offered or are you planning on offering at your school or your district level? If anyone wants to add in. And just a reminder, just put your name in the chat and I'll call on you. And I can start by giving some examples. So I put a picture of Zoom series, which District 4 is doing. And I'm in District 4, so I've had a really great opportunity to kind of look into the series they're doing. So they're doing an educational series, which is focused on, they did one last night on CV writing and creating goals from past ASDA Vice President Alex Howell. And then they're doing one on public speaking. So theirs is going to be continuing for a couple months throughout the summer to garner engagement through educational series. Are any chapters doing anything similar? Feel free, or you can ask questions about what they're doing too. Yes, Lauren, awesome. You can go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I go to Ohio State and I'm going to be the incoming president next year. So our president is taking an exam, so she asked if I would step in. But we are, we did a virtual, like a finance kind of a talk with a company that has come in and done lunch and learns for us. And that was the only thing that we've really tried through Zoom. And it didn't have a ton of success. So that's kind of, I think, what we were trying to get out of this. We only had 15 or so people come, and, you know, lunch and learns at school, it's way easier to get people to come. But they kind of wanted to do a series too, like you were talking about with District 4, like do a couple different things. So I'm just trying to get some ideas for that and how to do like some virtual engagement. And then we've also been trying to do a more steady newsletter, and I've had a lunch and learn column in there because that's kind of my thing for this year, just transitioning into the president role. So yeah, any other ideas are very much appreciated by us.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lauren. And I know we're going to jump into like some possible challenges with doing virtual events later on, which will hopefully help with that. And Maya, you're next.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm the current president for UCLA. A big thing that we're doing is we used to have a big core build-up day for our pre-dentals because our pre-dental outreach is so large, and our pre-dental chairs have now taken it virtual. So we have around like 400 people attending an online virtual series for it for about a month. And it goes over applications and gets feedback from schools, and then we do a panel from District 11. So we have a school representative from each of the schools to like talk about each of their programs. And then we used it as a fundraiser. So students could sign up like $10 to get their personal statements reviewed and do a mock interview with us over Zoom as well. And that's been really helpful just to kind of keep cash flow coming in a bit. We don't get to do lunch and learn sponsorships because of state school regulations, but our vendor fair is a huge part of it, and we're just kind of trying to be proactive to make sure that in case large gatherings don't happen and by like the winter time, we still had a little bit of income coming in to kind of offset that for the following year. So that's a big thing we're doing, and that's been really fun and a good way to kind of get a little bit of money out of it at the same time.
That's a really smart and good kind of addition to it too. I'm gonna ask you one more question and kind of jump into the next part, but how did you guys go about advertising that? Was it mostly social media or email?
Yeah, it was mainly social media. So I think we were lucky that our pre-dental outreach committee has a pretty good following on social media so far. So that was helpful, but they made a really cute kind of like a video advertisement that had all of the people speaking in it and about like, make sure that you're still taking these opportunities and we're here for you in this time of stress to make sure that your applications are strong. And then we just posted it all over Instagram and sent it to other large chapter leaders who posted it, like different districts and stuff, and kind of got the word out that way.
Awesome, thank you. Sasha, you're next.
Hi, I'm the president at ASDA in Arizona. We were lucky and got our vendor fair in like the week before our campus shut down. So we were focusing more on wellness. So we send out like a newsletter kind of like wellness tips every week on Sunday of just like how to, just other things about stress and workouts and resources that our school has offered. We'll share that again with our members. Our District 10, is doing pre-dental webinars once a week with the various schools in our district. So I think the one this week is on personal statements. The one that ASDA is participating in is like school culture, like loan options and stuff. So a lot of, I think over 100 pre-dentals have signed up for the first one, which is good because I know they're kind of floundering right now. And then we are doing like virtual happy hours from these vendors and companies that wanted to have lunch and learns but couldn't do it. So it's just for D3s and D4s, but they're just like hosting like BYOB, and then they talk about, opportunities for these new graduating dentists soon. So that's what we've been doing.
And Sasha, it's being attended pretty heavily, or what are the numbers looking like?
So far, well, we just sent it out today. So far there's only like 20 or 30 signed up. We're holding our first one on the 30th. So I can keep you guys updated, but I think it's going to be good because I know a lot of our current D3s are feeling concerned.
Yeah, rightfully so. Thanks, but 20 to 30 is still a lot already. Okay, so we kind of touched on this, but I want to go into different platforms to advertise things. And I know like ASDA did, and a bunch of districts are doing the little bingo boards and stuff on Instagram and things like that. I saw someone was doing a step challenge. Have you all used social media or Zoom to promote different, maybe smaller activities, not necessarily webinars? Okay, we can move on from there. I'll just add to another, when I was looking into what different people were doing, I saw District 1 was doing, they had like a private Facebook group and they were all competing to see who could do the most activities in a week, like wellness activities, which I thought was kind of cool because I haven't seen a ton of stuff on Facebook. Okay, so next question is, which I think is kind of cool, is how we can use this time to foster leadership from people who may not be necessarily have a chance to speak during the normal year at conferences and things like this, because webinars you can do more often and potentially use that as an opportunity to spark leadership in others. Has anyone thought about that or could see that as a potential opportunity? Maybe just nod your heads. Yeah, Sasha.
So we had just had our like leadership elections in February and then transitioned right after annual. And we've been having like Zoom leadership meetings with our current very new leadership team. And it's been really shocking to see how many people are like taking initiative and wanting to start new stuff now that they're kind of sitting on their hands. So we encouraged all of these, we call them liaisons and chairs, to reach out to like their friends and their roommates if they want to help plan something. And I've seen at least 5 or 6 people who I never thought would ever want to get involved in leadership sign up to be on committees. So I think just encouraging more regular communication has been really good.
That's really awesome. That's good to hear. Does anyone else have anything on that topic? Okay. So now I want to dive into what we were talking a little bit about with Lauren. So some obstacles or limitations you've experienced with virtual sessions, if you all have hosted some so far, such as I know like something we've all learned, which I mentioned at the beginning, was everyone needing to mute their microphones. I know we've had many classes where someone's accidentally talking and their mic is still on, which has been very difficult. Also, something that Carrie, who's one of our staff members, and I talked about was it's a little more difficult to read the room on a virtual session, whereas normally when we're all together, like at an ASDA event, it's really easier. You'll see someone that you know to call on or things like that. Can anyone talk about limitations, or Lauren, do you mind talking about other things that you all faced?
What was the last word that we all faced? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
We really just didn't have like a plan of attack going into it, I think, was probably where we lacked for it. After the fact, we kind of thought about doing like a raffle of getting people to come, but then again, that comes with like, do you have the person running the webinar sponsor and provide a gift card? And then like you were talking about, I remember what your name was, with UCLA, like having a money, like, because obviously we aren't able to do the big events that we usually do for fundraising, like having the budget and the money to provide something like that for virtual webinars. So more just getting engagement is difficult right now because people don't want to register or come to the webinar. So
Thank you. Does anyone else have any limitations they want to share that they've experienced so far? Okay, so how about we counter that with some potential opportunities, because I think that there is a lot as far as like accessibility. You don't have to leave your house. Like this, we can record sessions for future in case someone wants to listen to it later on. Is there anything like that that you all are capitalizing on at your chapters? Okay, so maybe that's just something to think about, different ways as this kind of gets kicked off throughout the summer and hopefully no longer than that. Some of the different ways that you can utilize these for the future. Okay, so if no one else has anything to add for this topic, we'll go ahead on to the second, which is promoting virtual events, which we've already kind of talked about a little bit. But I also want to talk about, and I know Maya, you touched on this earlier, just different ways to engage people. I know we're all getting like a million emails right now, since that's pretty much the only way to communicate these days. How you're able to kind of change that up, if that's your main way to promote them, or if you're using social media more. Sasha, I know you touched on this, but do you mind kind of touching again on how you all are promoting your new series?
Yeah, so we've been posting on social media. All of the districts have like the same graphics that we're posting to keep for consistency. And then we have like a mailing list of pre-dentals who have attended things like our pre-dental day in the past. So we're sending it to them with an RSVP form. And then that weekly newsletter goes to students and faculty. So sometimes there's like faculty who knows of somebody who could benefit from it. So we're kind of just sharing it with everyone, but they do have to be like ASDA members. But that's what we've been doing.
And I just know, just from my experience at UNC, we've been getting a lot of like important things about graduation requirements and all the other stuff right now, and updates every day, but there has been very little about clubs in general. I feel like it's kind of rare right now to get them. So maybe capitalizing on using email to promote like a social event or something during this time, as opposed to kind of the more stressful emails that we're all getting. Does anyone else have anything to add on promoting events right now? Okay. So we'll move on to topic 3. If anyone thinks about something too as we're going, you're welcome to kind of jump back. So one thing I know we all love about ASDA, it has a very community feel to it. And I know we've talked about kind of like social nights and stuff, but what is another way to leverage the community feel of ASDA along with virtual events? Has anyone thought about doing like a game night or something like that? Oh, yes. So the question was how we can potentially capitalize on the community feel of ASDA and putting it into a virtual format. This is just an example. It's not necessarily ASDA related, but the D1s at my chapter, they did a bingo night and everyone just had to have a bingo board. And they all went on Zoom and played together, which I thought was really cool. And I know we're all lacking in social events right now, so. Or incorporating with like a social night, like you all were talking about with BYOB and stuff. Does anyone else have something to add on that? Okay, so, and we touched on this too, but registering for activities, how are you determining which events require registration? Or are you doing that for all your events? And Sasha, you said that you guys were requiring registration. Okay, is everyone doing that for the most part? Okay, and then going off that, okay, perfect. So Sasha said all events and Maya said no events do you require registration. So for collecting registration, how are you going about doing that? Is it just a form that they put in online, or Sasha, do you mind speaking to that?
I talked about this at annual session because I love it so much, but we either use Google Forms, which is like the go-to for like very quick things needed, but there's this program called a drop-in. It's just a website, but I've literally referred so many people to him if you need a referral, but it's like a completely free way of like creating big ticket events and like organizing it by different tickets and different price levels. And so we use that all the time of just like keeping track. We drop into the event when it starts so that we make sure that you're there, but then you can also drop out of the event so we know that you stayed the entire time. So we kind of go back and forth on those depending on like how last minute the event is.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry for calling on you so much too. You have a lot of good ideas, so I appreciate it. Does anyone else have something to add as far as registration and making sure people come? So, Sasha, the question is, what was the program called again? Okay. I know another way that we kind of try to encourage participation is like we were doing free virtual yoga classes, and we said that like if not enough people actually participated in them, then they were going to get canceled. So a lot of people were grabbing their friends and stuff because they didn't want it to be canceled. So that was a good way to promote it. Kind of threaten people though, but it's okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and jump into our last topic, and then we can kind of revisit things and help you guys maybe hash out some of your events that you're planning. So the last is post-activity evaluations, because as I kind of alluded to earlier, it'd be really cool to use this while we're being forced to do virtual events to as a way to maybe gauge potential involvement in virtual events later on, because they can potentially be easier and use less resources to put on than maybe some of our bigger events. So how do you all think that we can use this as a test for future programming, such as maybe like an annual summer webinar series? Did anyone plan on getting feedback for their events? Yes, Maya.
So we like do data analysis for all of our events just for like ease of record keeping and stuff. So we changed our system, and basically each of our committees, when they come in, if they want to do an event after the event, to get reimbursed for anything that they might spend, which is not necessarily happening now, but for like all record keeping, we check in a week after, and they have to write down like how many people attended, you know, like what was the engagement like, a description of the event and everything, and then we can go back and reflect on it. So some of the things that might, like, I know the pre-dental stuff, they're really excited about it because so many people got access to it, so we know we're going to continue it later on. But there have been like a few upcoming lunch and learns where we're trying to gauge, compared to last year when they were held on campus, the numbers versus the numbers that we're having now that they're not being held on campus. And I think that'll be a good way to kind of evaluate people's perspectives on it. But I think at the same time, it's kind of hard because in the summertime next year, at least for us, we're still in school. So it's like, at what point is it they're attending because they want to attend regardless of the scenario, or they're attending because they're stuck at home and like bored and want to like jump in, you know? But I think having kind of that record base is helpful in trying to like analyze if more people or less people are showing up to each event.
Thank you. And that's a really good point that I didn't think about, is that I know myself, I'm more like eager to get engaged in things online just as a source to kind of fill the time, like you were saying, versus during a normal summer. So that'll be interesting to see, which is why it's important to kind of keep those numbers. And it's nice that you have that from your in-person events too. Do you all do anything to look at content quality? I think Maya talked about this a little bit.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, sorry. If you look at kind of the quality of the content as well as just, you know, the numbers and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely depends. Like the pre-dental stuff is the same that we've been doing previously. So I think there's kind of a consistency in the material behind that. And some of that is panels. So that will vary from time to time. But a lot of the stuff that we've been doing is actually trying to corner faculty who are stuck at home and have them do lunch and learns. So it's been kind of nice that, you know, it's their content, and usually they don't like put out like, you know, poor content, I guess, in a way. Like they've been pretty like active and engaged, and almost more so than they are during the school year, just because I feel like they're kind of stuck in. So it's been nice just trying to give more things like that. Like we have faculty too on their own time that are doing like coffee happy hour things or whatever. So during like breaks between classes, they're like, I'm opening up a time, we're inviting in this other faculty, and we're just here to talk to you guys, which I think is kind of a unique experience you can kind of reach out to your faculty to do. And then another thing that I think is cool is that our student body, just like my class itself, for our Zoom lectures, do like spirit days. So we had like crazy hat day, and everyone wears a crazy hat on Zoom, and then they screenshot everyone and we vote in our like group me's. So it's something that you could maybe have like your class representatives do for their own classes. Like we had crazy hair day, there's like virtual background day, just like show off your pet day, like random things that get people more excited to sit in on a Zoom lecture and turn their video on, you know? So those are good things.
I love that. That's so fun. Another thing that you kind of that made me think of something else too is we're talking about faculty having a lot of extra time. I know we had a really, really great series with a bunch of students who had recently graduated and talking about their different experiences, like their first or second year out, if they were associates, if they went to residency. So being able to right now capitalize on the people who are at home is a really great thing. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Maya. Thank you. Yes, Sasha.
This is a separate topic, but it was reminded when Maya was talking about her faculty again. So our incoming D1s probably, you know, for those who came straight from college, probably didn't have a graduation. So we were planning, we haven't ever done this before, but we're trying to do like an ASDA fever week for when they are expected to come onto campus, to kind of give them something like exciting, not to replace their graduation, but because they didn't really have that like ceremonial moment. So we've been trying to do that. Our faculty are on board, and then we've been getting D1s and D2s to kind of do like a frequently asked questions document type of thing of like, just like, what do I need for this class, and what is a normal day like, and how hard is it really, and do I need an Apple Pencil, just like things like that, while people have the time and want to give back. That's something we're working on. That's totally a side thing.
No, that's really cool. So for that, like, kind of mini graduation thing, are you guys gonna like send out invitations to the dental students? Like, is it gonna be its own separate event, or how are you planning it?
Well, they kind of canceled our D1's incoming white coat ceremony. It's kind of like all up in the air right now. So we were thinking of, we typically hold like a social at the end of the first week to like break the ice and get to know everyone anyway. So we were kind of just continuing that for the whole first week of classes, if not their orientation week, of like a mixer on the first night, go get dinner, like ice cream night, trail mixer, something like that. So nothing too formal yet, because we're hoping that the school will put their white coat ceremony back on, but just kind of in the works, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so just one more question on post-activities evaluations, just how you all are getting that feedback, like using Google Forms, or how do you do that? Or is that mainly the way? So that was all that I had planned. One other thing that I kind of wanted to mention, coming from an advocacy background. So usually I lead more of the advocacy chapter exchanges, and something that people always want to do is an advocacy academy. And so it just came to mind that this might be a really great time to plan like a little mini virtual advocacy academy and be able to see how that catches on at your school or district. And it might be a little more doable virtual the first time than trying to create something in person. So maybe get your advocacy chairs on it. Yes, Lillian.
So I wanted to share, and hi everyone, I'm Lillian Smothers, Director of Membership at ASDA, and I just wanted to throw a couple ideas I've heard from some other chapters that they're exploring. So one is for Lunch and Learn, to try to keep some of the Lunch and Learn flair, working with sponsors to see if the sponsors are open to doing like Grub Hub to still offer a lunch while also having the Lunch and Learn on webinar. And I was thinking about this with some of the other comments, like a referral program. So if you're hosting a webinar, an event, and you kind of have the usual members come, implementing a referral program where members could get points if they encourage others to come, that then, you know, down the line, those points are accumulated to provide some sort of incentive as the members accumulate points. So just wanted to share those couple ideas.
And I'll also say, I know we're kind of working out how to approach sponsors during this time, since it is difficult economically speaking for them too. But I know we had someone from a disability insurance, and if you signed up and you were there, then they sent you like a mini pizza to eat during the webinar, which I thought was really fun, because they were planning on doing like having all this to a restaurant. And a lot of places are doing free delivery right now, so probably ended up being even cheaper for them. But I thought that was really fun, and of course made it more engaging with food. So kind of one more question that Stephanie's mentioning is, outside of Zoom, like what are some other ways or ways to get people active and participating in chapter events right now? Yeah, that's a really great point. Sasha said social media challenges, and I know those are going crazy right now. And I'm usually not one for social media challenges, but kind of what we talked about earlier, anything to fill the free time is seems a little more worth it these days. and a really great way to bridge ASDA fever. Or even something I just thought of is maybe like a chapter or a social media challenge between districts or something. Kind of what we talked about earlier with ASDA, still created that community feel, letting people meet each other, that kind of thing. Might be cool. Or maybe a step challenge between them. Lauren, did you have any questions as far as increasing participation at your events in the future?
No, I don't think so. I've just been writing down all the ideas, and I'm going to take it back to our board and kind of see, just because we don't know what the summer is going to look like. I don't want to not have anything planned. So hopefully we can use some of these ideas. Thank you.
Awesome. And just outside of this, definitely encourage you all to visit other social media pages from other districts and chapters, because a lot of them are doing some really cool things right now. And like, don't be like intimidated and just drop into their direct messages and see what they're doing and how they're doing it. I know we all really enjoy helping each other and make sure that all of our ASDA chapters are successful. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, well, that's all I have.
Just out of curiosity, and just to kind of see where everyone's at on what they're looking at for the long term, what are you guys, what is your schools thinking about doing for summer? I mean, because I'm at UCLA as well, and we're planning on maybe getting back summer. I mean, obviously, everything's on the, you know, we never know. But I know a lot of schools have just totally canceled summer altogether. Like, we're not coming back, you know. So I'm just wondering where you guys are at in the long term for all these Zoom sessions.
I guess I can speak for UNC, even though I'm about to leave, but so we're canceled until August, which just made me think of too, with kind of Stephanie's point about finding alternatives to Zoom sessions, because I know we've been in classroom 10 to 5 every day for the past several weeks with Zoom, and after that I'm kind of over it. And so maybe thinking of ways to get people outdoors, or you know, communicating some other way other than Zoom might be a good idea to start thinking about.
I don't know if I can jump on like this, but for our summer, it was supposed to be the first week of July. So as of now, on our schedule, it just says that we're getting that, but they also said that we would get hopefully a 2-week notice whenever we do go back to school. So I guess it's just kind of like a rolling thing.
And something else to mention, just I know that too, speaking on the wellness part, that a lot of people are very like stressed out right now, understandably. So I know some schools are doing like meditation sessions and things like that during the day, or doing it during lunch, maybe in place of like a lunch and learn kind of setting in the middle of Zoom sessions might be something cool to talk to your school about doing as well. Any other questions for Leon? Okay, well, I know we're wrapping up a little early, but oh, another question. So do all of your schools have like the same virtual schedules between all the classes? Have you all started virtual classes yet? And Maya, how did they vary?
So they kind of like gave our third years the short end of the stick with this all. So they didn't, like, we started technically in the beginning of April, our quarter. So We had all of our classes from summer, like didactic wise, moved into the spring to open up time for clinic. But the third years at our school are basically all clinic. So they were like not having classes for 2 weeks, and now all of a sudden have all of these like kind of clinic based discussion classes. But because all the faculty is already working with the D1s and D2s, a lot of their class times are like from like 6 to 8 p.m. or like just weird time chunk periods, and their block rotation. So some of the class is in a lecture while the other class is in a different lecture, to try and make like small group discussions. So like the first years and second years are kind of basically on the same schedule, but the third years are in like their own weird world. And then the fourth year's kind of just checked out. They don't really care what's happening at this point. So yeah.
Do you think that that'll kind of even out as maybe as the summer progresses, if this stays virtual, or do you think it'll still be like very sporadic like that?
I think it's going to be very sporadic. It's just kind of been the way that everything's handled. They tried to get us all into clinic earlier, and now we're not going to get into clinic really earlier, like any earlier. So it's just been a battle between the third years and like faculty as to like how to get credits for procedures that they can't do and like the time off. So that's their way, is like, oh, we'll hold a lecture series with everyone in endo, and then you'll get part of your endo credits for doing this lecture series. But like timing wise, it's just been all over the place really. And I don't know what I really like. They don't know what they're going to do for the summer if we can't come back on campus. That's kind of like the up in the air thing. So we can't really predict what's going to happen at this point, which is scary.
So do you think with that, when you're planning events, are you still sticking more to like lunches or evening time, or how are you planning them in order to get everyone involved?
Yeah, a lot of them are lunches still, just because people do have lunchtime off. We have been doing like suggesting some kind of like weekend things if they're less like they're more casual. So just like in the morning or afternoon when people have more time like free and they haven't been sitting in lectures all the time. Which I think is good. But a lot of our wellness stuff happens in the evening. So like if someone does a yoga classes in the evening, one of my secretary does Zumba classes and just schedules them randomly and does Zumba classes for people. So it's just kind of like if someone has an idea and they want to do it, we're like, go do it. And like we'll just tell people about it and people will show up or they won't. And it's just kind of something we've been playing, you know, based off of feedback from everybody. But found that if it's too planned, things don't get done. So it's just kind of like, just put it out in the universe, and if people grab it, then that's great. And if they don't, then we like know that they don't want that, and we'll find something else for them to do, kind of situation.
Can anyone else speak to what their schools are doing as far as scheduling of D1s through D4s right now? And you can just go ahead and talk. Maybe Lauren or Maya.
I'm a D1, so I haven't really been in the loop about what the D3s and D4s are doing, but our schedules stayed pretty the same, but we've done a lot more recorded lectures, which I personally haven't liked as much because I like the being able to interact and kind of like get feedback and things like that. But it's definitely been a change not being able, our like operative and fixed courses, they've kind of just put on hold because our teachers don't want us to take the tests without having the hands-on experience. So it's just really been all over the place for our D1s. D2s, I think they have a little more on track just because they have more background of things and they're trying to get them in the clinic as soon as they can when they get back. But I hope if it does go into the summer that ours is a little more structured. And I know that they've been working on that. Like they've made most of our, all of our didactic courses are already announced online for the summer. So I think that's been a big focus of theirs and hopefully is a little more structured this summer. But it sounds like you guys all have really organized schedules. I'm like kind of jealous of that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I know from our end. We haven't gotten a ton of information.
I know it was kind of sprung on everyone really quickly. Ours looks organized on the outside, but internally it's certainly not organized that much. Maya, what is your school doing?
Just like for the timelines of our classes, or
Sorry, I meant Sasha. I apologize.
I
You
was
talked about it.
like,
No worries. I'm a D2. Basically, we're all kind of just doing didactics. Our D1s, we're supposed to be in sim right now, so they're getting like operative lectures. I think they started RPD, which is bizarre. And then we are kind of just finishing up all of our didactics because we were supposed to be taking competencies to go into clinic. And then I know that our D3s and I think D4s are taking like treatment planning things with our clinic faculty, talking about medically complex patients and stuff like that. So I know everyone's getting, especially the D3s, because they were like regularly seeing patients, they're getting very antsy. I think that's all they're doing though, as far as classes, it's just like virtual lecture.
Is it mostly during the day that those things are happening?
Yeah, it's actually kind of confusing because I'm in Texas and it's on Arizona time. So it's 10 to 7. And I know there's a lot of people like all across the country right now, not at home in Arizona. So everyone's like on a different time schedule.
Which is another really great point. I know in general with our virtual ASDA events, we struggle with picking a time that both the East Coast and West Coast can come to. Any other questions about virtual events and ASDA Fever? Seems like we had a lot of great ideas for everyone to take back to their chapters. Okay, well, I really appreciate everyone coming today. It's really exciting to see some faces from all over for the first time in a while. So thank you, and feel free to reach out to myself or ASDA staff if you have any questions afterwards, or like I said, go stalk some other chapters and things to get ideas. All right, bye guys.